So in this session, I want to talk to you about a rather unusual event, popularly referred to as the world's largest gathering of humanity ever. It's called the Kumbh Mela. It's a big religious festival that occurs in India roughly every 12 years, or to be more accurate, the so-called Mahakumbh Mela. Maha refers to grand, Kumbh is the name of the setting, and Mela is a festival, a religious festival of sorts that occurs somewhere in India every 12 years. And the little Kumbh Melas occur annually. So every so often people get together for this religious event when there is a symbolic bathing in the holy waters of some rivers in India. And it's sort of a festival plus a religious gathering of sorts. It's really fun, it's really crowded. And what's unbelievably cool about it from my perspective is that there are tens of millions of people who show up. So some years ago, in 2012 to be exact, a collection of colleagues here at Harvard, in particular Professor Diana Eck, who is a professor of religion, and Professor Rahul Mehrotra, who is a professor at the design school and is a practicing architect, brought this to my attention and the attention of a bunch of others and said that this is such an extreme event that is so interesting, never before, or actually for that matter subsequent to that time, has there ever been so many people gathering at one point. We had to guess as to how many people would come together at one point, and we thought it could be anywhere between 70 million and 120 million people coming together over a rather short time span. Think about that for a second. That's give or take 100 million people. That's a third of the United States gathering in a single location, a single, what I will refer to eventually as a pop-up mega city. It never happens. You could see it from outer space. Now, the only other thing you can see from outer space, to some extent, are things in, you guessed it, in China, because things in China tend to be rather large. You can see the Great Wall from space. And I don't know if you can actually see the mass migration that occurs around Chinese New Year, but that's a period of time when comparable numbers of humanity in the tens, even hundreds of millions of people move in short time spans. But the Kumbh Mela is different because the Kumbh Mela, we have people coming to one spot in India over in 2013, a 55-day period in a way that I'll specify a little bit more. For religious reasons and for social reasons, and it's a great deal of fun. So the thinking of my colleagues at Harvard and I was that when you have extreme events like this, it's of great interest to scientists, social scientists, humanists, to try to study it, to understand what it is that we can learn about different disciplines and what is it that it can teach us about some fundamental underlying issues. So we decided that we would mount the Harvard expedition to the Kumbh Mela, which did actually pan out, and the institute that I directed, Harvard, the South Asia Institute, was the steward of that effort. We ended up having some 50 to 70, I forget the exact number, faculty and graduate students, and then a fair number of undergraduates traveled to the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad, a city in north central India, at some point during the 55-day time horizon between January and March 2013 that the Kumbh Mela actually occurred. Now, the reason it's very relevant for this purpose is that I think there's a lot that we can learn about the phenomenon of entrepreneurship by looking at the Kumbh Mela, what happened in it, what was possible, what was not possible, what was the role of the government, what was the role of individual private sector entrepreneurs, what was the role of civil society, etc. And that's what I propose to address in this segment and this viewing vignette. Now, I'll do it in a series of pastures, as is customary. In the beginning, I want to tell you a little bit about the Kumbh Mela, and it will be an extraordinarily abbreviated history. The Kumbh Mela has been going on for hundreds of years. So I'll give you a snapshot of what the Kumbh Mela was in history and tell you about some of the people who've been important in informing us about the reality of the history of the Kumbh Mela. I'll tell you about the Kumbh Mela as I personally experienced it when I went there in 2013. And then I'll sketch out different ways in which we can learn something very interesting about entrepreneurship in developing countries by looking at this extreme outlier event the pop-up mega city of the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad in India in 2013.